Hello, chat. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I have failed you. Usually, I start streaming 2 hours earlier. I don't even know if anyone is going to be awake to watch the stream. I don't even know if I should actually go into the topic that I've enticed you with because I want more people to see it. It depends. If I get 100 people, watching, we'll talk about the topic. If not, I will change the title and the thumbnail because it's so spicy. It is so good, and I want to keep it for later. Live wallpapers eat up processing power. Okay, but I need the power. I need the processing power to create a great stream. So what you're saying is that this wallpaper creates global warming, like Jeff Bezos' yacht. This is what you've just told to me. Because there's more processing power, there's more electricity going into the computer. Because there's more electricity going into the computer, there's more coal being burned at the coal plant. So I am literally killing Mother Gaia with this wallpaper. Mother Gaia is suffering because of what's on the screen. I see. Okay, Grieta. Okay. Hello, Amakuro. Amakuro is at work and thanks me for streaming. Amak, shouldn't you be working at work? I mean, I'm not the one to judge, do whatever, but still, there are questions, Amak. So, I want to address a frequent question that I get, which is that why am I streaming for only an hour? And it is true. It is true. I only stream for an hour, but I have to make 4 other videos on 2 different channels. And on top of that, I stream every day, motherfucker. I stream every day. So I don't get a break, which means that I could stream for more than 1 hour. But I would run out of talking points. Like, there would be nothing to talk about. It would become boring. And I don't see why I would force you to just watch me ramble, which is what I'm doing right now, actually. Holy shit. I need to change things around. But, Amak is at his shop. That's why Amak keeps donating super chats to me, because he's rich. He's loaded. He's a capitalist. Amak has money. Guys, go get him. Go get him. He's got cash. Go get him with a business proposition. Tell him a business deal. Tell him about, like, you're a supplier and you want stuff to be sold in his shop. What would you want to be sold in Amak Uno's shop? It's a good question. I don't know. I'll think about it. Amak, I'll tell you. I'll give you merchandise to say. Romanian grave dirt. How does that sound? Like, I bring the dirt, you sell it. We make money. We both become rich. Actually, no. Hold on. Romanian grave dirt would actually be difficult to sell, because you gotta go through a lot of European Union regulations. Like, you're moving dangerous stuff around. It might be biohazardous, right? How about NFTs of Romanian grave dirt? So I take the Romanian grave dirt, I put it in a box, and the box has a number, and that box is going to have NFTs, and we can sell them those in your shop. How about that, Amak? Wouldn't that be great? Like, selling NFT, Romanian grave dirt NFTs. Boom! Just exploded your mind. You just realize it's like, holy shit. That is like such a good way to take money from people. If capitalism is not a real term but one invented by communists, what would our word for it be? It's freedom. It's literally that. Like, before capitalism, you had feudalism. But, like, the idea of capitalism is to allow people to trade whatever and however they want, right? That's what Adam Smith came up with. Just leave people the fuck alone. Just stop fucking with them. Leave them alone. And you have this economy which is done bottom up. Because usually, like, under feudalism, the economy... I mean, it wasn't always central planned, but you did have the noble that told you what you're allowed to harvest, where you're allowed to harvest, when you're supposed to plant stuff. So throughout most of human history, economy is controlled top down. Like, there's someone telling you what you're allowed to do, how much you're allowed to sell it for. Right? But Adam Smith comes up with the concept is just leave people the fuck alone. Just leave them alone. Let them trade whatever they want. And, like, there are some common sense exceptions. Like, obviously, like, you're not allowed to do slavery. You're not allowed to do contracts that are against the law. Like, for example, You know, like if I were to ask for someone to chop off my arm, even if it's legal, like even if I were to sign a contract and that person would be like, okay, you know, I consent. No, it's still illegal, right? So there are like some common sense exceptions, drugs, for example. But other than that, like people should be left alone. Like capitalism would also be low taxation, low regulation, like as free as possible. That's what Adam Smith came up with, and that is the correct word. It's freedom, right? You leave people alone. If you leave people alone, they're free. So that communists are the ones that came up with the word capitalism, because you need capital in order to start the business. But it's like, yeah, but now in 2022, it's not like back then. Like, I mean, everyone can get capital now. All you have to do is to go on GoFundMe and not ask money for truckers. But like there's various ways of crowdfunding and getting money. Like if you have a really good project and you're talented, like let's say you're a very talented artist, you can start your own game. You can have like one of those visual novels things, and it's very easy to do. You go fund me. So it's not like the same like it was under when Karl Marx was alive, and only the rich can have a business. No, like I see people on Kickstarter who just had like a very small project, like they wanted to sell burgers and they wanted to buy a burger stand, and people donated to that. So it's now it's more easy than ever in the entire human history to start your own business. I'm not saying like it's something everyone can do. It's still hard, but compared to how it used to be, it's the easiest of them all. And you can also self-promote, like you can start a YouTube channel, you can start a Facebook, you can promote yourself. Like it never before in human history has it been this good. Hello, Shadow Reaper. A very talented artist. Yes, a very talented artist can also do stuff. Look at the YouTube, look at the VTuber I shill, look at Pippa Pipkin. Right? Like she has the ability to use her talent in order to make money. So the idea that capitalism is evil is false. It allows people to have a ladder. Like you don't even like. And what's interesting is when you look at these socialists complaining, they always complain from the point of view of, okay, well, I work at a corporation and life is hard. It's like, okay, but you can also start your own business. Or I have a student debt and life is hard. It's like, okay, but you wanted the government to give you the student debt. Right? Like you wanted the government to intervene in the market to make it so that everyone can go through college. Why not go through trade school? Why like imagine a place where like here's something that I keep saying, and I haven't been debunked with this yet. Like if you go to a bank and you want $10,000 in order to start a small business, like you want to start a coffee shop or whatever, you know, like a little stand that sells coffee. You probably need like $5,000, $6,000 to do it. It depends where you're at, but it's not very expensive, right? Because all you need is like the actual place and the coffee to sell. The bank will laugh at you if you're like 18 years old and you ask money for that. Like they will laugh you off. But if you're asking them for a loan so you can go to a gender studies school and get like a lesbian dance therapy degree, well, if you do that, then all of a sudden they're like, sign here, sign here, sign here, and they can give you like $70,000. And there's a lot of people, like I also noticed this, which is really messed up when you think about it. There's a lot of people who only need like $40,000, but the government allows them to get like a $70,000 loan. So they get the max. They get the max. And then they're the ones complaining, saying, oh my God, I have crippling debt. Biden, please. Please, Biden, take it away from me. I mean, not to mention, you know, I do think the age of consent law is kind of ridiculous. And I like every YouTuber who talks about consent law gets in trouble. Will I get in trouble, chat? I think it's too low. I think at the age of 18, people are still children because they're being infantilized by culture. Like the age of consent should become like at 30. At 30 years old, you should be able to consent. Given by the poor decisions that a lot of people are doing. Like, I'm sorry, you know, like, I know the age of consent is subjective, because, like, it differs from country to country, right? Like, for example, you can drink alcohol in Romania at the age of 18, but in the United States it's 21. So I get it. You know, like it's subjective. So because it's subjective, we should raise it. It should be like 30. Until you're 30, you can't vote, you can't start a business because you're too dumb. Statistically speaking, not you personally, but like statistically speaking, people make bad decisions, so they shouldn't be allowed to make decisions. They're being treated like children anyway. You go to a university and you have a teacher that says, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't say this, you can't say that. They're treating you like kids anyway, so fine. Raise the age of consent. Especially when you read a lot of Me Too stories and they're like, one day I woke up in Harvey Weinstein's bed. It's like, how the fuck did that happen? Like you read a lot of women from Hollywood and they're like, so I woke up in his apartment and then he came up to me and it's like, how did you wake up? Like, can you backtrack a little bit? Like, how did that happen? Why were you alone in his apartment? See, like you're making decisions that are irrational. So for your protection, we should raise the age of consent. Should be 60. Oh, I see. Should be 60. Kelly moderator, get the fuck out. Oh my god. Is that the real Kelly Miller or is it like a new account, a person imitating? I don't know. I think it's the real Kelly Miller. Like who would imitate Kelly Miller? Like if I were to imitate someone, I would imitate someone more grandiose, like I don't know, Hassan Piker Hardar. All right. How many people do I have in the chat? I told you I'll start talking about the emojis when I get 100 people watching. So I got 52. We're halfway there, chat. We're halfway there. We're doing this. We're doing this. I don't think IQ has anything to do with things. I mean, okay, so are you saying that people that are dumb shouldn't be taxed? Right? Like, aren't Americans the ones with no taxation without representation? So, like, if you're a person that is kind of dumb, you're saying, okay, well, that person can't vote, but they're getting taxed. Like, no. And by the way, like, look, I lived with simple folk. Like, when I was at the rural farm where I grew up. Like, there were a lot of simple folk around. But not only that, like when I went to hospital, I met a lot of simple people. And by simple, like I don't mean... It's difficult to explain. Like I'm not coming at it from a point of malice, right? Like it's not like I'm making fun of them. But it's like people that... They wouldn't understand grandiose concepts, let's put it like this. You know, like they wouldn't realize that the round peg goes into the round hole. And the thing is, like... Yes, while they weren't intelligent, they had like some innate wisdom that was quite shocking, right? So you talk with a person that seems that they don't understand any intelligent concepts, like no matter how you explain it. Like I would have to explain to a patient like 4 or 5 times the disease that they're having, and I would have to explain it in different ways so that they understand. Like even like having to explain to a patient why alcohol damages the liver and why it's bad and why he should stop drinking. Like for example, there was this patient that I would tell him, it's like, look, you got liver damage from drinking alcohol. And he's like, but my grandfather, he drank his whole life and he didn't get liver damage. And I'm like, yeah, but like everyone is built different. And he's like, no, but like my grandfather, right, he drank alcohol his entire life. And I'm like, yes, but you don't have your grandfather's liver. No, yeah, like my grandfather drank alcohol the whole life. And it like, okay, so those types of people we're talking about. And while you can notice that they're slow, you can notice that, I mean, they're not going to manage to win a Nobel Prize anytime soon. They had some really, I don't even know how to say it. They had like an inner compass, like an inner way of navigating the world that like they would know if you're fucking with them, even though they didn't understand how you're fucking with them, right? Like if you're mocking or joking about them, like they would know. Right? So what I'm saying is like even though like you would look at the person and say, okay, they're dumb, they wouldn't necessarily make bad decisions in their life, right? Like they would, it's so difficult to explain how, because it can't be luck. But like all the time they would make the correct and the smart decision, despite the fact that they didn't really understand what they were doing. So I guess it's kind of like wisdom. Like wisdom isn't something you learn. Wisdom is something you have, right? So life experience, I guess. Like life experience is a better word for it. Yeah, grandpa's liver experience. Good intuition, yes. But on the other hand, like there's the opposite which can happen. Like you can have a very intelligent person, but they don't have any street smarts, and they go on a trip and they get robbed, right? So even though they have high IQ, even though they're very smart, they're not good with people. Like they don't know how to recognize a street situation. They don't know how to avoid a problem. So they end up in all of these conundrums. So it's not like everything isn't all about IQ, right? Like it's I do understand that, like, for example, like having high IQ is important to graduate the university, which allows you to understand more things. It's like, okay, fine. But like, I know people with low IQ that are really good at navigating through life. And I know people with high IQ that are really bad at navigating through life. I mean, look at New Zealand. So New Zealand, they're having protests. And most of the people at the protests, right, they're not academics. They're not like the intelligentsia. But they're protesting in front of the legislative. And they opened the sprinklers in order to try to dissuade the protesters, to cause them to disperse. So what the protesters did, they immediately started digging ditches and made sure that the water is being drained away from them. And like, it's kind of funny. I'll have it in This Week is Stupid. But my point is, right, like, you don't look at them like they're engineers or something. Like, they just knew how to do that because they have life experience and they're very pragmatic people. It's common sense. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's common because a lot of people don't have it. V takes half of his streams down. I would donate if he at least put them on mission. Okay, fine on common sense. You're on. Let's see how much you donate, though. Let's see if it's worth it. If it's worth... Because the thing is, like, this is why I keep taking the streams down. I'm not the one making the terms of service, right? And if you go to @TeamYouTube on Twitter, you get to read some horror stories as a YouTuber. Like, you see streams being taken down for, like, one word mentioned after 5 hours. Or someone has a guest and the guest says something problematic. Or, you know, someone opens a browser and there is something problematic on the browser. Like, you don't know. And YouTube is ruthless. They don't even give you a strike anymore. They take down entire channels. So, this is why I just delete them. It's like, I don't deal with that shit anymore. And I understand why people are upset. But I think, like, all the people that are upset, like the small category of people that are upset because I'm taking down streams, would probably be more upset if there were no streams at all. Yeah, exactly. Like, someone said freedom, take it down. They actually have this article that the word freedom has been co-opted by the far right. And I was like, wow. We're at that level. We reached the level where freedom is slavery, huh? The far right coming near you to give you freedom. Okay, 77 people. We need 33 more, and then we talk about the NPR thing. When is the last time I watched Destiny? I don't know. I don't watch Destiny, but I'm a little bit surprised that you betrayed Vosh like that. Like, you're a Vosh traitor now. Like, I thought you really liked Vosh. I thought you donated. You've given yourself to Vosh like a nun gives herself to Jesus. I thought that you donated your body and your spirit to Vosh. But now you're working for the devil. You're working for the enemy. You're with Destiny. You're in league with Destiny. Freedom is a threat to democracy. Well, you know, like, there is I guess if you want to deconstruct the word, what is freedom, right? You're never going to have absolute freedom. So absolute freedom doesn't exist simply because, just take any situation where two people are next to each other. Again, I gave this example many times. But like, look, so take me and my wife, right? Let's say that I want to play video games very loud, or no, I want to stream. I want to stream at night, and I want to be entertaining. I want to shout. I want to, you know, like, exaggerate my emotions to entertain the chat. And it's 3 a.m. Now, my wife wants to sleep. She has work next morning. So, either I do the stream and I wake her up, so she doesn't have the freedom to sleep, or I don't do the stream, not to wake her up, but I don't have the freedom to stream. So just by being next to each other, just by having two people in close proximity, one person, no matter what, isn't going to get freedom. Like one person is going to be dominated by the wishes of the other person. And like even if it's reasonable, right? Like even if what you're doing is completely acceptable, you are simply not doing what you want. Like you don't have the freedom to do what you want just because there's another person there. So now amplify this exponentially to an entire society. Like surely there must be rules. Like for example, not shouting after, I don't know, like 10 p.m., right? Like people want to go to sleep, so you can't go on the street and start shouting or using a megaphone and playing music out loud. So that clearly that's not what people mean when they say freedom. But what people mean when they say freedom is that there are a couple of rights which after World War II, people realized that the individual should be protected. And if you protect the individual, you protect the collective. So they realized that the individual needs to be protected against the government, against corporations, against organized religion. Like these are entities that are so powerful that the individual has no chance fighting against. So because of that, the individual gets a couple of rights, you know, which are considered sacred. Like this is kind of like, it used to be under feudalism, you had the right of kings, like the divine right of kings. Now you have like the human rights for the individual. Like this is what society is based around when the European Union talks about the nation of law, the state of law, right? Like they're talking about that there are a couple of sacred rights that every person has that should never be violated under any circumstance. And these are like the right to life, the right to free expression. And the thing is, like, over time, there have been like more and more exceptions to these rules, right? Like, for example, the right to live. Well, what about death penalty? What about abortion? What about going to war? You know, like, so people are coming up and it's like, okay, well, let's have an exception to this right because it's common sense. And then, like, once you have that one exception, they'll be like, okay, well, let's have more exceptions because they're more common sense. And by having all these exceptions, you now go full circle back to the time where it's like the collective have rights, which is pretty much how it was under feudalism, is the right of the collective trumps the right of the individual. So, for example, if you look at China, like China doesn't even talk about the individual. There is absolutely nothing coming from China that cares about the individual as a person. I mean, China can do like, all right, well, we have too many people. We need to have like mandatory abortions or, you know, like a one-child policy. Because they literally don't give a fuck, right? On social media in China, you can bully other people. I mean, it's not against the terms of service. As long as you're not advocating for real-life harm, the concept of bullying almost doesn't exist, at least from what other people in China told me. Like you can say whatever mean shit you want about another person, as long as you're not attacking like a government official or you're not attacking a politician, they don't care. Like you can harass away, you can say whatever you want, because they don't care about individual people. Like all they care about is the collective. It's kind of like an anthill. You know, like an anthill doesn't care if you kill one ant. An anthill cares when an anteater comes up and starts licking away thousands of ants. Okay, that's when they start defending themselves. So, this is what people are talking when they're saying about freedom, right? Like, the individual has no freedom in a place where everyone cares about the collective. Like, if you care about the collective, then individuals are expendable, as long as the collective benefits. And this is what you notice happening around the world with the pandemic, right? Like, they don't care about, like, what an individual person is doing. Like, for example, there have been people who suffered side effects from the vaccines, right? But the same people may not have gotten the sickness, or they might not have gotten the vaccine, but they were persuaded to do it, right? Like they were constrained. And because of them being constrained, they had to take it against their own will. But it's for the greater good, right? Because you're protecting the collective. So it's a new way of thinking that didn't exist after World War II. I mean, well, it did exist after World War II, but people were fighting against it. It's like when you as an individual aren't allowed to do whatever you want, but you have to do what's quote-unquote the greater good. Like, even the concept of equity, like, you're taking stuff from the people that have a lot and you're giving it to the people that don't have it. It's like, again, like, you're infringing on people's freedom. So that's what the far right is talking when they're talking about the freedom. They're talking about the fact that the individual shouldn't be underneath the collective. Every individual should be protected by the law, and only by doing this you protect the collective as a self. Because if every individual part is protected, then the whole is protected. So anyway, right. Let's see one of the super chats. Can you still be a vegan if you eat animal crackers? What are animal crackers? Like cat food? I will tell you something. Like I know when I speak with vegans, like you will see that there are so many of them. So you have vegans that still eat milk and eggs. I know it was a shit post, your super chat, but like I want to analyze it. Like there are vegans who eat milk and eggs. There are vegans that would actually eat fish. Like you have all sorts of weird vegans that call themselves vegans. They want to be recognized as vegans. They encourage you to live their lifestyle, but they still eat some meat. Right? So it's kind of weird. But I guess it's like if you recognize that, all right, so like you can't have a vegan diet. Like I think like 70% of people they say they can't have it because like their body doesn't tolerate it. Okay, so what they do is they try to have some animal product in their diet, right? So they will have like some milk and eggs, or they're going to have some fish meat or whatever, right? That is still in line with vegan mentality, because you're like, well, you're reducing the harm that you're causing towards animals. I mean, it's basically like there's a difference between being a hunter, so you're going out of your way to kill animals, just being a normal person and eating animal meat, which like you're encouraging slaughterhouses and shit, and then like trying to limit at most what animal product you're consuming. So you're still like you're still avoiding eating animal meat, but you're just avoiding, you're doing like the bare necessity to be able to tolerate that lifestyle, I guess. And by the way, like there's actually a very difficult conversation when it comes to vegans. You're going to catch a lot of them by surprise. Whether or not eating honey is okay. Because like a lot of them don't care about insects. But others do, and they will say no, because honey is from animals, so, you know, it's still animal cruelty to eat the honey. But others, like, don't have a problem with it. I find it very interesting, right? Because, like, if they care about insects to the point where they will say, well, you're not allowed to eat honey, like, do they realize that every single crop requires pesticide? Like, if you want to have a crop and not be eaten by locusts, you have to have pesticides. So, like, you're killing insects every time you're planting shit. But anyway, right. Honey is bee vomit. Yeah, it is, but it tastes good. Like, so what? I mean, do you know that they put cow shit next to potatoes so they grow? It's called fertilizer. At least I think that's how it works. So, yeah. Is honey good for diabetics people? Oof. I don't know, chat. I don't think the YouTube terms of service allows me to give misinformation. All right. Let's go to the NPR thing, because now we got 100 people in the chat. I should have like a ding 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 ding. 100 people in the chat. Ding 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 ding. Okay, so I just want to point out that there are 3 people that wrote this article. I just want you guys to let this sink in. You know, under communism, we call this cutting leaves for the dogs. So cutting leaves for the dogs was like, when you're hired to do a job and you're paid for it, but you don't really have to. Okay, I think I need to dial it back a little bit so you guys can understand. Communists promise that there will be no unemployment, so that everyone will have a job, right? But the problem was that the economy couldn't need all people. Like unfortunately, there are a couple of people in society that aren't required in the workforce. I mean, this is unfortunate, right? Like in a perfect utopia, everyone would have to go to work. But unfortunately, there are people who legitimately aren't needed in the economy. So what the communists did is they created additional jobs for these people. So let's say you have like a job that requires one person. Well, the communists would put 3 people for that job so that everyone can be employed. The problem with this is that now you're paying 2 people for doing nothing, to cut leaves to the dogs, as it was said. Like their job is not required. They're being paid. And this is one of the reasons, not the reason, but one of the reasons that the USSR economy collapsed. Because like you had way too many people that were doing absolutely nothing, but they were still being paid. So the companies, the factories would run at a deficit. The ones that did produce and did have a profit, they couldn't reinvest the profit into new technology and stuff, because they had to pay like all the useless workers that did nothing. And they're useless not because like they're useless as human beings, but they were doing nothing. Like they just sit in the factory doing nothing and getting paid. So they were cutting leaves for the dogs, right? And this is exactly the same. It's like you have 3 people to write an article. Don't you think this is overkill? Like, don't you think this is a bad management of human resource? Like, you could have had 3 articles, but instead, you have 3 geniuses writing the same shit. So why do they do it? Why do they have 3 people writing the same shit? Well, it's because of identity politics, that's why. It's like, you can't have an opinion on women unless you're a woman. You can't have an opinion on black people unless you're black. You can't have an opinion on Muslim people unless you're Muslim. So because of that, they require like 3 different people in order to like make sure that the article is politically correct, right? Because they talk about different subjects and different identity groups. So they require to have 3 people in order to write like something that would only require 1 person to write. Are they feeding leaves to the dogs? No, because that's like the whole point of the expression, right? Like you're cutting leaves for the dogs. The dogs don't eat leaves, right? So you're doing something that is completely pointless, but you're doing it to get paid. So you're being paid for doing something pointless. It's a smart expression. You need to think about it. There's wisdom in it. A lot of wisdom. Chat. Romanian saying are loaded with wisdom. 3 authors, 6 tomes, exactly. Exactly. There's another saying, throwing gems to the pigs. So you're throwing like sapphires and diamonds and like expensive stuff. You're giving it to the pigs. You're throwing them to the pigs. Because like the pigs have no values for diamonds. They don't know what a diamond is. They're not going to cherish it. They don't appreciate it. So you're giving, like you're wasting resources on something that's useless. It's a mismanagement of resources. See how deep Romanian sayings are? Did you see how deep they go? My God. Let's listen to this.
In Littleton, Massachusetts, I am 3/4 white, but I'm also a quarter Filipino.
Can you guys hear it? Like, I wanna know if you can hear it properly first.
Rosella says he usually goes. A lot of times I find.
So I need to know if you can hear it. Oh, you guys have the same expression, pearls to swine? Okay, fine. In Romania, it's margaritare, which means like gemstones. But it's okay, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, you guys can have your little saying as well. It's not as good as the Romanian one. Like, the Romanian one is more encompassing. Especially like pearls. By the way, did you notice like no one gives a shit about pearls? Like, when my grandmother was young, like, she had the pearl necklace, and those were cool. It's like, oh my God, you have a pearl necklace. But in reality, they looked bad. I mean, I never liked pearls. You look at an emerald or a sapphire or something, that actually looks cool. But you look at a pearl, it's like, meh. I guess. It's like a little white stone. And then you have like the black pearl. Okay, the black pearls actually look cool. Alright.
So a lot of times I find myself texting a friend or messaging a coworker, and I want to reply with a simple thumbs up emoji. But it's not that simple.
So, like, I'm telling you this from Eastern Europe. Alright, Kelly, pay attention. I'm educating leftists now. I'm telling you this from Eastern Europe. Like, most people here, they're worried about putting food on the table. They're worried about, like, how are they going to buy clothes for this month? Because it's like the changing of the season and you have to get away from your winter clothes and get into something more comfortable for the summer. So they're worried about gathering money for that. But like with me, for example, I'm worried. It's like, how am I going to pay the mortgage? Oh shit, the washing machine broke and I already spent all my money to the bank. Who am I going to contact to lend me some money to fix the washing machine until I get paid again? Right? Like these are the actual questions that we have to deal with. And then when you have this shit and you're listening to some American going, it's like, okay, so what emojis am I allowed to click on? I mean, it's so difficult. I just can't decide. Like, I want to have this woman's life. Do you understand this? I want to be in the position where I worried about an emoji. Hello, Zenith. I really want to change places with her. Like, I want to live a life where like, my biggest concern is, like, what emoji I need to do. Now, the problem is that these people consider themselves to be oppressed. This is why it's funny. Because normally, like, I don't care, right? Like, if this is, like, your moral conundrum, like, you have a good life, and you're worried, it's like, oh, from a philosophical point of view, like, which emoji is appropriate? It's like, okay. But I want to say that you're claiming that you're oppressed. Like, you're oppressed. You don't know what oppression is. Like, I don't consider myself to be oppressed with the problems that I'm having. But at the same time, I would change bodies with this person in a heartbeat, like being an affluent American lady that gets paid to complain about like what thumbs up emoji they should use. It's so fucked up. I whatever. Yeah, it's the first world problem beam, which for some reason disappeared from the internet. I think it disappeared because like the first world problem is so large now that like no one can make fun of it because it's like normalized. Like none of them is offensive. Like I don't even fucking care. But we're going to go into the Simpsons color thumb in a bit.
That simple, because there's not just one thumbs up option. There's the Simpsons yellow version and then 5 different skin tone options.
So this is literally because of people like her complaining, because of ideologues complaining. So in the beginning, the internet was anonymous. Like you wouldn't know, like for example, Swaggy Baddies. I've no fucking clue if Swaggy Baggies is white or black, is a man or a woman. Now I can assume, based on the averages, like I can look at the demographics of the people that follow my YouTube channel, and I can assume he's an American man, which is white. But the idea is that you don't know. And the thing is, like, it used to be like that because it was anonymous. So the left complains about marginalized voices, right? Like, no one cares about marginalized voices. But on the internet, in the beginning, you couldn't marginalize someone based on their identity group because you didn't know who they are. That, like, there was no idea. And even now, like, I don't know if Kelly Miller is actually a woman. I mean, I think she is. I take her word for it. But, like, it's the internet, right? Unless I see her on a webcam, and I don't think she's doing any Pixar magic shit, then I will assume that, yeah. But, like, it's the internet. So, you have activists complaining because they wanted equality in the beginning, but then they didn't want equality. They wanted equity. So, they're complaining that they don't know the type of person behind. Because, like, if you're into identity politics, you need to know the identity of the person so that you can know if what they're saying should be taken seriously or not. Like, for example, if a person is against Black Lives Matter, is he a racist? And the answer is it depends. Is he white? If he's not white, then he's not a racist. It's still problematic, but he's not a racist. So you need to know, like, the heritage, the pedigree, the identity of the person before you can cast judgment. And that's why they wanted, like, different emojis. But even then, it's like, if you, for example, say that you don't think women are being oppressed online, well, they want to know, are you a woman or not? Because if you're a man, you're mansplaining. Right? So, like, the identity of the person is more important than what they're saying. It's more important than their thoughts. It's more important than the actual statement. It's kind of like, and by the way, they do this with books as well. Like, they will judge a book by its author. So, with video games, like the game Seafood, they're complaining now that white people made it, even though the game is good. They complained about the Ghost of Tsushima. For same reason, it's like, oh my god, white people made it. Like they judge books by their author. It actually used to be done like this in the medieval time. Like during medieval time period, like certain books by certain authors would be banned. And even after like the medieval time period, like during the interbellum period, reviewers, like book reviewers, would look at the author, and if the author didn't have like ties to the nobility, if he wasn't like from a noble family, they wouldn't give the book a good criticism. Like they would just slander the book because of the author. And we're back to that. This is why it is. This is why you have like all of these different skin colors emojis that weren't needed, by the way, because like the Simpson one was anonymous. Like you don't know the type of person behind it. Not seafood. There's like 10 different publications complaining that Sifu is made by a European development team. And the game is inspired by Chinese action movies. So you have like this kung fu game, and they didn't have like even the person that recorded the motion capture was a black person. So they're absolutely furious that they didn't get Chinese people involved in making the game. Which is absolutely, like, why should you? I mean, Resident Evil Village takes place in Romania. I'm not bitching that I didn't invite Romanians to make the game. Why should they? They're a Japanese company. They can do whatever they want. It's called freedom of creativity. But, yeah, whatever, you know, I guess.
Skin tone options.
I use the brown one that matches me. I have some friends who use the brown ones too, but they are not brown themselves.
Oh, Dios mío.
This confuses me.
That's Sarai Cole from Berlin, Germany. She's black and
I just want to point out, like, the woman literally says that she's brown. And the seconds later, the NPR radio host says she's black. It's like, no. You have 3 people writing this article, and you still can't foolproof it. I know it's nitpicking, but like if you have a person that says something, why are you immediately not paying attention? Like you don't even care what they say. Like for you, brown and black is the same shit. Like you're telling me that if a couple of Mexicans, like a Mexican family, if they give birth to a black child, do you think the father should not have questions to ask? Is this what you're saying? Is they're interchangeable? I mean, if we're going to focus on race, do it properly, right? Like, she's brown. She's not black. But I guess it doesn't matter, right? Because from, like, the identity politics type of thing, it's, like, whites, Asians, and then non-whites. Right? Like, that is how they view it. And it's kind of like how the communists used to view, like, the working class. Like, for them, a guy in a factory and a guy working at a dock was kind of the same thing. Like, a dock worker and a factory worker was the same shit anyway. They're interchangeable. And a blacksmith, right? Like, it's pretty much the same lived experience.
is black and originally from California. She says she's not offended when a non-brown friend uses a brown emoji, but would like to understand why.
So why would someone like me use a brown emoji? In order to filter people, like if you get upset that I use a brown emoji, like I know you're the type of person that I don't want in my life. You're toxic. That's what you're at. Like you're the type of person that's going to be offended. I'm not the type of person that walks on eggshells. Like I know slurs that you probably can't even comprehend. There are so many insults and jokes that I can do that would crush your spirit. So in order to protect you, I need to remove you from my mentions. I need to block you, right? For your own safety. For your own safety. I'm not doing this to harm you. I'm not doing it. No. You need to be kept safe from me. Because like, I have the power to completely crush your soul. Like, just by making a joke, I can floor you. I can just decimate you. So, this is a way that I can filter people. I have to find ways. Like, how can I filter them? And this is one of them. Like, if I was a brown emoji and you start whining, okay, I know. I have been made aware. Another reason is that if you're in a progressive circle and everyone cares about your skin color and everyone like judges you based on how you're born, you can't change how you're born, right? Like, this is not something that you can change, but you can change what emojis you use. So you're going to use emojis in order to trick progressives into paying attention to what you're saying, to actually tackle your argument rather than do ad hominems. Rather than be like, oh, but you're a white person, what do you know? It's like, well, just tell me what I just said. Is it true or not? Like, for example, if you say stuff like, you can't defund the police because if you do that, you're going to give rise to criminal gangs. I mean, that's a statement, right? It could be true, it could be false. It doesn't matter. It's a statement. But if you say it in a progressive circle, they'll be like, but you're a white person. What do you know? Meh, meh, meh. So you have to pretend, I guess, like you use the brown emoji in order for them to actually tackle the fucking argument. Is it true or not? Is less policing going to get more or less crime? Right? So that is why a lot of people fake it. Because if they don't fake it, they're not even being paid attention to. Like, no one cares what they have to say. Filter people like Pipa. I don't know if Pipa's filtering. I don't know if she has the keys to that. Hello, Mr. V. It's Steve from Australia. Again, giving you $20 to feed your potty tats. Just in case your wife divorces you and YouTube pulls this video down for just saying the word brown. I love you. Why would my wife divorce me? Jesus. Like, she's not into politics. Like, if she divorces me, I probably will never regret what I'm saying here. But I'm pretty sure people will clip it. The only way my wife would divorce me is if I cheat on her. And that will never happen. So, but with that out of the way, do you know that in Australia, there's now a law which fines people for cursing? And if you can't pay the fine, you go to jail? Like, that just blew my mind. It's in This Week is Stupid. It's so weird. Like, Australia, the place where they use the C word that I can't use on YouTube. The one that ends with unt. They use it as an endearment, by the way. It's kind of like dear fellow in Australia. It's so interesting. Like, the same word is the most offensive word in the English language after the N word. Because, like, the N word is still very tsuyoi, very powerful. But the unt... that is like the most offensive, right? In England. But in Australia, it's like, hey, dear fellow. So, we're talking about that country, which has people with very potty mouths, like with very high quality potty mouths, I would say. And they want to arrest people for saying bad words. Interesting. We have to do the black emoji speedrun. What is the black emoji speedrun? I have no idea what that is. Bert or Rant. Let me see how I can put it. The thing is, like, I can't think of anything unless things that rhyme with it. It's like burnt. But even then, my God, it's such a special word. Such a special word. Yeah, exactly. It's like, see you next Tuesday. Exactly, like Gerg said. It's like, try to abbreviate, see you next Tuesday. But like, instead of C, with you put it C with a C. Ah, God. Can't undo next time or something like that. Oh my. Oh God, I said it. Do you know, like, let me tell you something else. The YouTube algorithm, they actually translate into text what I'm saying right now. So what I'm speaking is being translated into text. And when I say cannot, I say like can't, right? Like, I can't do this. But because of my accent, YouTube thinks I'm saying cunt. It's like I'm an Australian now and I'm using the endearing term. And I get demonetized for it. And I'm so sad. It's like, dude, I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it. You're misunderstanding it. So I have to avoid using the word can't. And I have to use cannot. I'm not saying it. Kelly, you're a woman. You're a woman, Kelly. Tell them I'm not saying it. Tell them I'm not a misogynist. Kelly, tell them I'm not a misogynist. Gosh darn it. All right, let's go.
To understand why. I, too, have long been curious and a bit confused by the race politics of emojis. I posted about it on Twitter this week, where I learned clearly this was not an isolated obsession.
Why on earth would you spend your life wondering about emojis? Like, instead of wondering which League of Legends chica has bigger oppies, you're spending time wondering. It's like, all right, but the black and brown emoji. I guess each with their own hobbies, right? Each with their own hobbies. Like in League of Legends, there's so many people discussing, is Sona bigger than Ari? Like, which one has the biggest oppies, right? So you have this thing going. And it's understandable, you know, it's like, it's a hobby. I guess it's like, who would win between Superman and Goku? And like, this is what normal people talk about. And then you have the people, it's like, why the white people use the brown emoji? Notice they're not wondering, why do brown people use the white emoji? Oh, checkmate, you bigot. Checkmate. Oh, but it doesn't matter, right? Because, like, it's almost like it's the aristocracy and the peasantry. Like, some people are just allowed to do it and others aren't. It's like, well, why is an aristocrat dressing like a peasant? Who cares? You know, he can do it. It's like, why is an aristocrat pretending to be a peasant? Who cares? He can do it. Why is a peasant pretending to be an aristocrat? Now that's a crime. Mercury, best girl. Hello, FBI. By the way, like, seriously, Sailor Moon is quite problematic. Because when I was a teenager, I used to like the girls in Sailor Moon. I found them uchkshi. But when you grow up, like, the girls, they still stay young. They're forever young. They stuck in time and space. So when you're like 20, Uzaki Chukina is still like 16, or how old is she? She's still underage now. Because you outgrown her. You outgrown Tsukina Usagi. So, are you still allowed to like her? Like have her as a waifu? I guess the thing is, like, when you reach my age, like when you're 30 or something, like, you look at Uzaki Tsukina and you're like, dude, there is no way I would be able to spend even 5 minutes in a room with her. Like, she is so fucking annoying. Like, God. This is something that I guess every person is going to notice. You know, you're in high school and you're looking at all the girls and they're having oppies and stuff, and you're the same age as them, and you're really aroused, and you look around you and it's like, oh my God, like, all these girls are so hot. They don't have cellulitis. They don't need makeup. It's like, what will I do when I grow up? Like, when I grow up, I'm going to look around me and there's going to be like all these elderly women that are going to be my age, but like, look at them. Look at them. They're like, why would I ever like them? Right? Like, they're ugly. They're ugly. And then you grow up, right? And it came to me when I was at the restaurant, and behind me there were a couple of girls, and they were like, oh my God, did you see that Alice? Like, she bought a new phone and she didn't tell me about it. Oh, she's such a cow. And then they started talking about esoteric shit, like, did you see Romanians have talent? And there was like that guy competing there, and it's like, oh my God, but the purse they were wearing, and I just wanted to end it all. I wanted to buy Gillette products. Now, you know, like, the girls, I guess they looked, you know, like, they didn't have cellulitis. They didn't have to wear makeup to look good. But the moment they opened their mouth, holy shit. And I'm like, okay, well, now I understand. Now I understand why adults like adult women. They're like, yes. And even if it would be legal, like, let's say an 18-year-old girl, I would probably not have anything in common with her. Like, there is a type of people, I suppose, which do enjoy, like, having relationships with very, very young but legal women. So, for example, imagine like a 30-year-old having a relationship with an 18. I mean, that's bizarre as shit, in my opinion. But there are people that do that. I just don't understand why. Like, what is she going to offer in that relationship? Like, why would you? Like, there is no reason. It is just like, like if you want, like, why not just, I don't know, have a daughter and you can have all of those problems that she's going to complain about. And it's just the same, right? Because, like, what exactly is she offering more than that? Like, she's not going to build a future with you, right? Like, she's not going to bring money to the household. Like, she's 18. What the fuck? She offers on each channel. It's like, yeah, but, like, dude, I don't know. I don't know. Like, okay, yeah, she offers on each chance, but imagine the drama. Like, now you don't have one child, you have two, right? Because, like, a teenage girl requires maintenance that an adult woman doesn't require. Like, an adult woman can at least handle the shit herself. Like, an 18-year-old is still someone that requires a daddy, which is probably why she's with you to begin with, all right? Like, 18-year-old women, normally, they don't date, like, 35-year-old men. Yeah, like, sure, women like elderly men. I do understand. But the overwhelming majority of them will not date, like, a 35. The only reason that would happen is if they have the daddy syndrome. Like, their father wasn't there when they grew up, and now they want you to be the daddy. Why? Why would you want to be the daddy? Just have a normal daughter with an adult woman, and you can be the daddy. And don't tell me it's, except, of course, like, the people who, like, they're interested in the sexual nature. It's like, all right, well, that's bizarre and creepy as fuck, but okay. Yeah, I think it's, the fact that, like, you have certain men that want to be in control of the relationship and they can't dominate an adult woman. And by dominate, like, I don't mean necessarily, like, sexual, but I mean, like, being in control of the relationship, like, always having their way. There are women like that as well, by the way. Like, there are very domineering women that, you know, like, and for a woman, it's a lot worse. Because you can find women that are submissive, but it's very difficult to find a man that's submissive. So you have, like, these domineering women that end up finding submissive men, but they're not happy in the relationship. Because, like, the man isn't happy either. So they end up, like, going from relationship to relationship just because, like, they're not happy. They're not finding happiness, and they don't know why. And it's like, well, when I'm in Australia, I can't shout at my friend York Hunt or his brother Mike Hunt. I don't get it. York, Mike, that must be an Australian joke. I don't know. It's called being the man in the relationship. Yeah, like, most women, you know, they like that. Like, they're attracted to that. There are women who aren't, but, like, most women, from my personal experience, they like a leader, right? Like, they like it to make decisions. Like, even when you go, like let's say you ask a woman, it's like, do you want to go out? And she says yes. And you ask her, like, okay, where do you want us to go? And she's like, wherever you want. Right? Like, when she tells you that, whatever you want, what she really wants is for you to pick a place that she will also like. So if the woman says, like, whatever you like, and you say a strip club, like, that's not the correct answer, even though you might want to go there. So when they say it's like whatever you like, what they want you to do is to show that you understand them and to show that you know the place that they like to go and you're able to pick it. The last thing you want to do is to say, no, like, please decide. Because you ruin the mood, you ruin the vibe, right? Like, you're not supposed to tell the words, like, oh, well, please decide. No. You're supposed to make the decision. You're supposed to be the man, and you're supposed to make the right decision, the correct decision, right? Anyway, let's listen to the emojis.
Not an isolated obsession.
This is Heath Rosella in Littleton, Massachusetts. I am 3/4 white, but I'm also a quarter Filipino.
I love how they keep giving away, like, their genetical makeup like it's honorary title, right? Like, it's kind of like when you go to a symposium and you have, like, the guy walking on the stage and he goes, like, I'm a university professor in chemistry, or I'm a what is it under professor, like, conferentiary? I don't know if you have these titles, but yeah, I'm like a assistant professor blah blah blah, or a PhD blah blah blah. And these people, they do the same, but they do it with the race. It's like, I'm a quarter white blah blah blah. It's like, I I wonder if they're like the same like in academia. Like there's a lot of arrogance in the academia coming from the professors, and it's usually a justified arrogance. I mean, they work hard in order to get where they are, so they want you to recognize their title. Like, for example, if it's Professor Kalian, right? Like, if it's Professor Kalian and you're like Mr. Kalian, they will immediately correct you and they will be like, Professor Kalian. Because they work hard for the professor title, so they don't like it when you just go with Mr. when you're mistering them. It's kind of like not following their proper pronouns, right? And I'm really curious if it's the same with identity politics. Like if you're saying Patrick, and he's like, quarter white Patrick, quarter white. It's just... Oh, God.
Filipino.
Rosella says he usually goes with the yellow emoji because it doesn't represent any specific ethnicity or skin tone.
I go with the yellow emoji because it's literally the first one. Like, it's the default. If the black emoji was closer to the mouse, like out of convenience, I would have gone for the black emoji. That's literally it. There's no mystery to it. I'm a lazy person. I don't think about it. You know, like it reminds me when the one who made the Dogecoin on Twitter was asked by a social justice activist, like some blue checkmark person, and they asked him, it's like, okay, but did you how did you think about the impact on global warming? And it's like, the guy was like, I literally came up with the Dogecoin in 2 minutes while I was on the bathroom. Like, I didn't. And this is what social justice activists do a lot of the time. Like, they assume that there's some malice, right? Like, there's some deeper thought and he chose to be malicious. Like, no, sometimes people are just lazy. Like, I click the yellow one, not because it's like generic or what. I just don't give a shit. Like, if I want to do the emoji, the one that's closer to the mouse is the one that gets clicked.
I present as very pale, very light-skinned, and if I use the white emoji, I feel like I'm betraying the part of myself that's Filipino.
Listen to these people. Listen to these people. It's literally like an honorary title. Like, I guess for them, it's like lying about their credentials. It's like you're not a university professor, but you're lying that you are. It's literally at that level.
But if I use a darker color emoji, which maybe more closely matches what I see when I look at my whole family, it's not what the world sees, and people tend to judge that.
Well, the problem is the people, right? Like, you're surrounded by racists. Why are people judging you based on your race? Why are you in that toxic environment where, like, you can't change your race? You're never going to be able to, right? Unless you're Michael Jackson, and even then. So, why are you surrounding with people that judge you based on your race?
And from Austin, Texas, says she used to think the yellow emoji was neutral, but then she started reading a book that made her rethink that view.
So she read a book that gave her brain damage. Yes, it's literally neutral. Like, everyone can use it. That's why it's neutral. Like, no one in is yellow. Unless you're like a medical condition. Unless you have liver damage from alcoholism and you become yellow. Okay. Yeah, like, this is for alcoholics then. But, like, no one thinks that. Like, no one thinks that if you guys give me a yellow emoji in the chat. By the way, give me a yellow emoji in the chat. If you give me a yellow emoji in the chat, I don't think you're suffering from cirrhosis. I don't know if you have hepatitis.
Ijeoma Oluo and her fabulous book, So You Want to Talk About Race, she made me realize that our culture tends to default to whiteness and that yellow emoji is white.
For other people,
because you live in America, I guess, yeah, and like America is a majority white country, people will default to white. But if you go to India, you will see that, like, the yellow emoji, people default to Hindi. If you go to Africa, the yellow emoji, people will default to black. But it's not even that. Like, even in America, if you are a black person in a predominantly black area, so let's say you're like a black person in Detroit and everything you see around you is black people, you're not going to default to white when you see the yellow emoji. It's based, like, on your subjective lived experience, like how, like, even if you're a white person in China and you see like a yellow emoji, you're probably going to think like Chinese. And I can prove this, right? Like I can definitely prove this. You guys know the anime girls, right? I'm pretty sure like everyone watches anime. So you have like anime girls, and social justice activists, they said that anime girls are white. But what's interesting is that there have been various studies where people went into Japan and Asia and asked them to talk about various anime characters, and people will be like, oh, this is South Korean, this is Japanese, this is Chinese. Right? Why? Because of exactly what is being said here. It's like defaulting to whatever is appropriate in that culture. So when you look at Tsukina Usagi from Sailor Moon, you might think, okay, this is a white person. A Japanese person might say, oh, she looks South Korean to me. Or she looks Japanese. And it is the same character, like Uzaki-chan. You take Uzaki-chan and you ask, for example, people in the West, it's like, what is she? And they'll be like, oh, well, she's white. But when you go into Asia and you ask people in Asia, like, what is Uzaki-chan? Probably a lot of them will say Japanese, because there's a lot of, like, very short Japanese women that also have, like, childish features. And they will say, like, yeah, it's probably like that. In fact, like, there was a social justice activist which got a lot of retweets. And they were saying that Uzaki-chan is made by a pedophile because of the way her face looks and because of, like, all of these things. And there was a Japanese girl who made a picture, and she showed that she in real life looks identical to Uzaki-chan. And honestly, to God, like, it was the best cosplay that I have ever seen. I mean, if you made a movie with Uzaki-chan and you cast that girl, like, perfect, 10 out of 10. And she had, like, the big op eyes, and she had the same facial features, she had the same size, like all of it. Right? So this is because, like, you have all these social justice activists that talk about multiculturalism, but they have no idea what's outside of America. Like, their whole point of reference is America. And even in America, they don't travel. Like, they don't go to a farm, they don't go to a rural area. It's like just like the city where they're surrounded by other progressive people. When saying Japanese names, one must at least make an effort to pronounce them like it's a samurai movie. Usagi Tsukina. Is that how I need to say? Like, Usagi Tsukina. Tsukina Usagi. No, Usagi Tsukina is a lot better. Usagi Tsukina. What other Japanese names do we know? Uzaki-chan desu ka? I don't know. But let's go.
People, the choice depends on where the messaging is happening and who they're messaging with. Here's Jennifer Epperson from Houston. She identifies as black.
I use the default.
Oh my fucking God. It's like watching another world. Kelly, like, you're a leftist. Is this normal? Is this normal in leftist circles? It's like, this is V. He identifies as white. It's like, do people talk like that in leftist circles? Is it like, what are your credentials? I identify as black. Is this normal with you people? You people, leftists. Yes. Are you people the left? Is this normal? And it's like, she identifies as black. So now you can identify as a race? Last time I checked, like, there was that guy that identified as South Korea. Like, he even did like, facial surgery in order to, like, he really wanted to be a South Korean. Like, when you go to the doctor and you put your face under the knife, like, okay, you convince me. Like, this is not a guy pretending. He legitimately wants to be South Korean. So, and all the social justice activists attacked him. Like, all of them attacked him. And I'm like, Nani? Why? But then they also, it's like, I identify as black. It's like, okay, whatever. But I want Kelly Miller to tell me, is this normal? Like, do people talk like that? It's like when they're being introduced as a party, it's like, okay, this is John. He identifies as non-white. Is that a thing? Yeah, they talk like that in the character customization screen. That is such a great way to put it. It's like they're in the character customization skin. It's like, what are you making? Oh, I'm making Bob. He's got some pimples, and then he's like quarter black. It's like,
I use the default emoji, the yellow toned one for professional settings, and then I use the dark brown emoji for friends and family. I just don't have the emotional capacity to unpack race relations in the professional setting.
If you don't have the emotional package to talk about basic shit, how are you going to deal with a funeral? Like when your parents pass away, right? Like every one of us is like, hopefully, because the other way is a lot worse. Like no parents should see their children dying. But like, if you get to that age and you're like 50 years old, eventually one of your parents is going to pass away. How are you going to deal with that emotion? Like if you don't have the emotional labor to deal with like something easy, like when some actual tragedy comes in your life, how are you going to deal with that? I heard stuff like this happens in some hyper-leftist circles, of which I haven't witnessed firsthand. Look, this goes even beyond Kelly. Like, Kelly is regressive for those people. Like I bet, like, when Kelly enters those circles, she's like Kelly the conservative. Like, they're going to assume she voted for Trump. Like, there is something beyond the Kelly. I'm really, like, just, wow.
Professional setting.
Skin-toned emojis first rolled out in 2015, so it's been a while.
I love how they omit the fact that they were rolled out because the same people writing these books were pressuring social media companies to roll them out. Like, no, companies didn't want to roll them out until activists pressured them to. And the pressuring didn't come from Europe, it didn't come from Russia, it didn't come from China, it didn't come even from India. Like, you would expect, like, the countries which have, like, an overwhelmingly majority of, like, brown people to want, like, brown emoji. No one wanted it. It was just, like, the ideologues that pushed for this. Oh yes, Kelly is absolutely an alt-right for those people. Like, if you, like what I noticed with the left, if you're not like as left as they are and you're a little bit more to the right, you're a reactionary bigot, like automatically. Look at J.K. Rowling. Like, for them, J.K. Rowling is trying to start the Fourth Reich. Like, she's going to put the jackboots on the street. I can't keep getting banned from. Look, she's getting banned from leftist streams. Like, Kelly, you need to join the right. You need to stop fighting against it. It's not that you will want to join the right, but you are going to be eventually, like, the left side of the political spectrum that you're at is going to become the right when the progressives progress even further. Like, you're going to be left behind. You're going to be left behind of your ideological compass. And before you know it, you're going to start worshiping Jesus. I'm telling you. It's going to happen. You're going to go to church one day, Kelly. You're going to go to church and you're going to be like, okay, well, maybe I don't believe in God, but at least it kept the crazies away. At least it did a good job keeping the crazies away. Watch J.K. Rowling. He is Omega based. Okay, watch Destiny. He is Omega based. Destiny is already called a reactionary bigot. He's already being cancelled on Twitch. Like, they removed his partnership for having, like, just basic ideological takes that aren't far-fetched. But even then, right? You say that J.K. Rowling is cringe. Man, I don't care. Like, she is a leftist. She is a leftist. Like, okay, she supports open borders. She is for more taxes, right? Like, tax the rich. She's for equity. She's for diversity. Like, she's for all of these things. But people disagree with her on the trans issue. Normal human beings would be like, okay, well, we can't come to terms with that, so let's not talk about that. But let's talk about the other things. Do you know how many right-wingers are that have, like, different political views and stuff? I mean, like, look, I'm an atheist. I don't agree with, like, the right-wingers that are, like, hyper-Christians and, like, you need to devote your life to Jesus and stuff. But at the same time, I don't consider them, like, an evil entity that needs to be combated and purged to purity spiral the right or whatever. Yes, Kelly is going to throw out her anime pillows. I know. She's going to get, like, pillows with Jesus. With like, the Last Supper. It's going to be like a pillow with the Last Supper.
But since then, a seemingly easy choice has become somewhat fraught. To help us understand, we've brought in Zara Rahman.
To help me understand, you brought 3 people. 3 journalists in order to write this. 3 journalists are required for you to write this.
She's a writer and researcher based in Berlin. Welcome to...
There are people paid to research this shit. I just want you to understand. There are people paid to research emojis.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, Zara, you wrote an article on all of this a few years back, and I want to begin with a somewhat basic question, which is who tends to use skin-toned emojis more? What did the research that you found say?
I found that
Leftists. I don't even do the research. I don't even do the leftists. Like, I know black conservatives, they use the yellow emoji. All right, like, only people that are surrounded by other people who put value on skin color, only those are the ones more likely to use it.
research to show that the lightest skin tone was actually used the least, even though white Twitter users outnumber black Twitter.
Why would you? Like, what advantage do you get for using the white emoji? What is the advantage? None whatsoever. Like, if you were to put the white emoji closer to the mouse button, more people would use it. But the yellow emoji is actually closer to the mouse button. So that's why the most people use it. Secondly, like, if you're in a progressive circle and you happen to be white, it's kind of like being in a communist circle and you happen to be bourgeois. Like, no one is going to listen to you. Like, everyone is going to be like, you're bourgeois, shut the fuck up.
Twitter users 4-1. And yeah, people, I guess in my personal research, I found that white people tended to use the yellow emoji much more than people who were visibly people of color.
It's closer to the mouse, woman! Let me, hold on. Like, nobody's going to listen that often, by the way. But, like, all right, let's where the fuck are the emojis, right? Like, so I go here. Where do I need to go? I think this is the one, right? Where's the thumbs up? Okay. Like it's right here. It's right here. So if I want to find the black one, or the white one, right? Like, if I want to find the white one, I don't even know where the fuck it is. Like, I'm lost. I'm lost. Help! SOS! I'm lost. I'm lost in time and space. Yeah, like, they're more handy. That's why. It's like, it's right there. I guess, like, you can find them if you keep looking. And I think, like, if you use them a lot, eventually they become the standard. But like, when you go on default, like, if this is... And by the way, like, this is probably the first time I'm doing this. It's the one that's most easier to find. What is this? Two hands. It's like, is this begging? It's like, give me a super chat. Is this what this is? Is this like, give me a super chat? I see. No, but like, this is the reason, right? Like, and she has to do research and figure it out. It's like, I'm telling you, like, you don't need to do research and figure it out. Like, if there's no advantage of using any other type of emoji, then it's very easy to just find the yellow one, right? Like, there is no advantage of using the pink emoji, like the white pink emoji. And secondly, it's more difficult to find. Oh, you can change the skin tone. Look, now I see it. Ah, okay. I didn't even know about this. But it was like, it wasn't. So, like, I need to do an extra action. I need to do an extra action in order to get this. So if you're a convenient person, you're not going to bother. Why are the cat emojis yellow? Shut the fuck up. Don't get them started. Please don't get them started. They're going to get like 5 different NPR journalists then. They're going to get 5 different NPR journalists to explain why all the cat emojis are yellow. And how that's problematic. And it's probably because of America's systemic racism and slavery and shit. So please don't get them started.
People of color.
We heard from people earlier opting for the yellow one to not get race involved for some people, or to not maybe promote their whiteness. But it seems like there is an argument from some people against using the yellow default. And I will say, particularly curious about this because I am a frequent user of the Bart Simpson yellow.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. I mean, if we look at The Simpsons, because I think The Simpsons does kind of influence a lot of people's use of the yellow emoji.
It's got nothing to do with it. You're making the connection. You're making the connection. Like when I even saw these emojis, I didn't think of Simpsons. In fact, I didn't even watch Simpsons from Romania. Like when I saw yellow, I literally thought it's like, okay, it's an anonymous thing. Like you're not supposed to think about it. And by the way, I can't even tell you why it's a fucking yellow emoji. I can tell you. Fine, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I don't even have a research into. Oh God, it pisses me off. I'll do it. I'll do it, chat. I will fucking do it. I will tell you. I will tell you why it's yellow. I'll tell you why it's fucking yellow. It has absolutely nothing with The Simpsons. You remember this shit? You remember this shit? Probably don't, because you were too young. The reason it looked like this, by the way, is because it was like a sun. So it's like a sun with a smiley face, right? And this was like the first emoji in the computer world. And because this was so recognizable, they then made all the other emojis yellow. It stands good on a background. It displays on any type of monitor. Like if you have a black and white monitor, the color yellow displays very well. This is it. This is why they're yellow. It's got nothing to do with The Simpsons. God. It's a good game. It's a classic. 10 out of 10 Kotaku. They would probably say it is Islamophobic or some shit. I don't know. I'm curious how Kotaku would criticize this game. You need to take into account that back then that there were people having black and white monitors. Like that was a thing. And the color yellow stood up really great on a black and white monitor. Because if you put it white and the background is white, then you're not going to see it better. But like yellow was a different shade of white. It was kind of like a grayish thing. And these people are in academia and they're researching this and they can't figure it out. Yes, yellow displays well on both white and black backgrounds. It's kind of like if you want to use dark mode for YouTube, like using the color yellow is good. If you want to use light mode like normal people, the color yellow is good. It's got nothing to do with The Simpsons. Black and white monitors were never a thing. I have a black and white monitor. Especially when you had like those Amiga computers that you plugged in. Let me see, were they not a thing? Am I remembering my childhood wrong? Yeah, monochrome monitor. Okay, so I'm remembering wrong. It wasn't really black and white, but they had like very few colors. No, hold on. I remember black and white monitors. Like I do. I can't even find it on Google. It's like, oh yeah. Hold on, I found something. So they weren't like black and white like a TV, but they look like this, right? So you had like, I guess you had like a shade of blue, and you had like a couple of colors, but all in all, it wasn't like the monitors we have today. Like it had very, very limited options. So okay, fine, yeah, maybe they weren't black and white, but they had like 3 or 4 colors that they mixed and matched. So I don't know, because you can make the argument, yeah, well, this is blue. Like, okay, fine. But it's not like the blue we have today. It's not like this. Like they would never be able to do any of these. It's like this was kind of how it looked like. Yeah. No, you're right. I was wrong. They do have color. But what I'm trying to say is that they didn't have like the same palette that you have now. And the yellow, like the yellow Minesweeper thing didn't appear yellow on these types of monitors, but it appeared in a way that you could very well see it compared to the background. Yes, I know, I've been fact-checked. Is this black and white? I don't think it's black and white. You get to see like the blue. I mean, to me the one on top looks bluish. Whatever, you know. No, it is black and white. Black and white monitor. Oh my fucking god, I've been gaslit by the fucking chat. I've been gaslit to this extent. Like this is the level that I've been gaslighted, that I don't really understand what's in front of my face. I'm looking at a black and white monitor and I'm saying no, it's actually colorful because it's got blue. What the fuck? How did you do it, chat? I felt like many people tried to gaslight me. I'm never going to get in a relationship with you, chat, now, because if I do, you're going to be abusive. You're going to abuse me with psychological tricks. Yeah, but like, no, yeah, it's absolutely correct. This is black and white. This is a black and white monitor. And the reason you see the shades of blue here is because they have this ability to mix the black and white and you get like various shades of gray and maybe even like some shades of blue. But it's considered black and white. I don't care if you say it's blue. Look at here. Atari computer, high resolution, monochrome, single color, black and white monitor. So just because they're using black and white to do this Pixar magic and you get like the shade of blue, it's still a black and white monitor. I mean, this is how it's called. It's in the fucking title. You order a black and white monitor, you get this for 71 pounds. Jesus, it's kind of expensive if you think about it. Oh, it's blue and white? So it's like white, black, and blue. You know what? I don't trust you, chat. You're trying to gaslight me. Like, fuck off. What I'm trying to say is that you don't get yellow. All right? Like, you don't get yellow on this type of monitor. So if you don't get yellow, when you play Minesweeper, the color of that little emoji, that little face. Sorry about that. The color of that little emoji looks really great on this monitor. Color, temperature, I don't know, chat. You're being mean. You're gaslighting me. You're trying to put me in an abusive relationship where I'm constantly being gaslighted, and I just can't take it anymore. I'm going to go back to talk about the emojis.
On The Simpsons, there were yellow people, and there were brown people, and there were black people. So I think for many people, The Simpsons yellow signifies white, even if it's actually not.
I had actually thought of that. Yeah, that's interesting.
So.
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, I guess it's like with The Simpsons, they wanted to like symbolize that this is like a foreigner, so that they can play jokes. Because like with The Simpsons, everything was about stereotyping people and making fun of stereotypes. So yeah, like in The Simpsons, yes, like yellow is white. But again, like this have nothing to do with The Simpsons. Like you just made the connection to The Simpsons. You assume that the reason emojis are yellow is because of The Simpsons, and then you went to The Simpsons and you talked about it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, and I think I think one of the callers also mentioned this. There is this default to thinking about
white. If I'm not mistaken, hold on a little bit. Like in The Simpsons, when you have Asian characters, they're still yellow. So, right. So with The Simpsons, like you look at the Asian character here. They don't have like a different skin color for Asians, but they do the eyes, which are different. So it's she's not correct. Like she's not correct. Yellow doesn't mean white in The Simpsons. And I'm pretty sure there are other examples. But like you can also make the argument like what if some of the yellow characters happen to be like black, but like the writers just don't want to show it, right? Because they don't think it's important enough for the character to like be stereotyped.
thinking about whiteness as almost raceless in many ways. So
again, this is an American point of view, and it's also the point of view of where you're born. Like if you're born in an American town where, like if you're born in Little China in the United States and you spend most of your life there and you don't get out, like for you the default is going to be Chinese people. This is something that they probably know, but they don't want to talk about.
In many ways. So the reason that I find this particularly interesting is because people are confronted with having to make their race explicit.
Hold on, let me just check something really quick about The Simpsons. I wanted to see. Yeah, like it's true. This is absolutely true. So Apu in the first Simpsons was yellow. So this is like in the first episodes, right? But like the season passes, they made him more and more brown. So Apu actually started off as yellow. Like, but who remembers like the first seasons of The Simpsons? Because I thought that this was the case. Like I remember this. So yeah, like he started off as yellow, but then as the seasons went on, like they made him more and more brown. I don't know why they did this, but it's like in the beginning he wasn't the way it was at the end of the seasons. People didn't know that, you see. This is why I come on my channel, to learn the good shit.
Having to make their race explicit, which I mean, I completely hear some people are just exhausted.
It was a different shade of yellow. I do agree, but he wasn't brown. Like he wasn't like in the last season. Like they brownified him.
Are just exhausted of having to do that. Many people of color have to do that every day and are confronted with their race every day. But for many white people, they've been able to, let's say, ignore it, or whether that's subconsciously.
How the fuck are they ignoring it? Like literally here, literally on NPR, you're just hammering it down on the white people. Like how are they ignoring their race? You're just nonstop talking about it. Like maybe 10 years ago, sure, but like in 2022, like read the Build Back Better bill. The Build Back Better bill mentions race and equity so many times, and it's like, okay, let's give money to the farmers, but we need to only give money to farmers that are minorities. Let's give money to businesses, but we're only going to give money to businesses that are minorities. So you can be poor, but if you're born wrong, tough shit. Right? When the government takes taxes, they don't take taxes based on race. They take taxes from everyone, but when they redistribute the taxes, they redistribute it based on race. If the Build Back Better bill was planned. And it's not just the Build Back Better bill, it's the infrastructure bill as well. So what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, there's Asians complaining on universities that whites and Asians are discriminated. It's like, yeah, sure, I agree with you. Like 10 years ago, no one would have cared about it. Because of the work of all the people after World War II, like they worked really, really hard in order to abolish race. The same way like we abolish like left-handed versus right-handed people. And you have like entire segments dedicated to like not see race. And now it's color blindness. Now it's color blindness if you're not doing that. And all they talk about is race. Non-stop, like the Democrats. What are you on about? Update your books. Patch your notes. We're not playing the previous patch anymore. We're in the new meta.
Consciously or consciously their whole lives.
Zara, it does feel like there's not necessarily one clear-cut answer for everyone. You know, in some of the Twitter responses, even I heard from people like their emoji use could be different depending on the season. I have 2 children whose skin color is not the same. I
What the fuck? Who does that? Who does like different emojis based on the season? I know, Kelly. Thank you for being here. Next time, give a super chat. How are people using different emojis based on seasons? Who does that?
I don't know that these are particularly easy questions for people to wrestle with, which is maybe candidly why sometimes I've just opted for the yellow.
I love how she's like, maybe this is right, maybe this is right. It's like, maybe this is wrong. That's what she's saying. Maybe this is wrong. That's literally what she's meaning. Maybe this is wrong. Because I haven't thought about it. And I opted for the yellow. Maybe this is wrong. Like, replace white with wrong. By the way, like, this is something else that they do. It's like, when you make arguments criticizing them, they call you a white supremacist. It's like, dude, you don't have to be David Duke to look at the ideology you created and say it's fucked up. When you get 3 people to talk about emojis, it's fucked up. Why can't you get a single person to talk about it? When you invite people and the first thing you do is like you give their credentials. It's like, oh yes, I'm like identify as a quarter black person. Like, why? Just say what you want to say. Why do you have to do that? What do you think of the stories that Trudeau is Castro's son? I think people are shitposting. I don't think he is. Like, if he was legitimately Castro's son, I think the conservatives would have found out and they would have brought it up. But like, because like it came out recently, I think it's just like people are shitposting because of like facial similarities.
For the yellow. So how do you recommend that people handle these choices?
Oh, no, I mean, I completely agree with you that there's no clear-cut answer. People that I spoke
You got 3 journalists. 3 journalists and there's still no clear-cut answer?
to
How about facial recognition software? How about that? You know, like that would solve the problem. Like, have everyone do facial recognition when they log online, and based on your facial characters, you're only allowed to use that particular set of emoji. How about that? Huh? That would solve the problem.
for example, mixed race people or white passing people of color in particular really struggle because, as one of the callers mentioned, not wanting to kind of ignore their white privilege, but not wanting to deny the fact that they are people of color.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Like, okay, first of all, you need to understand who listens to NPR radio. All right? Their audience is less diverse than Fox News. Like, overwhelmingly, the amount of people who listen to NPR radio are white people. Okay? Like leftists, liberal people. And they're listening to this, and it's almost like they're getting access to some forbidden knowledge, and they're probably like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's so smart. I mean, oh, yeah, and she does have a point there. I'll be inclined to agree, but you can't deny they have the same nose. Well, I don't deny it. As I said, this is the facial feature. Like, I'm willing to bet if Fidel Castro does something and Trudeau goes on the assembly line at the police station, there might be victims identifying Trudeau as Fidel Castro. I mean, it does have the nose, yes.
Yeah, I think context matters hugely. Who you are, what kind of context you're writing in, or where you're using it. The interesting thing about my work has been that I've had many white people read that article and then as a result start to use the white emoji as a way of acknowledging that
their wrongness. Acknowledging their wrongness.
They know that they're white.
That is Zara Rahman. She's a writer and researcher based in Berlin. Thanks for joining us.
Berlin, California now. Berlin. Okay. The Berlin-Californian pipeline, I guess. What is it? Is it the Californian Berlin pipeline or the Berlin-Californian pipeline? I fucking got. By the way, like I want to point out to something. So every time I put a picture, like here, for example, right? It was Valentine's Day. I uploaded a picture of me and my wife. And every time I do it, people are like, why aren't you smiling? Why aren't you smiling? Why? I don't feel like smiling just because there's a picture. Like, what is with this shit? Like, why should I fake smile? Like, you go on an Instagram and you see like a woman there and they're smiling in every single goddamn picture. No one is that happy. No one is that happy. I just had like the mood. And by the way, the reason I'm pissed off is because when you take a picture with my wife, like she will take like 25 pictures until she's satisfied. You think this is just one picture taken? I have been through 24 when I have to stay in the same position until she is satisfied with the way we look. That is why I don't fucking smile. You take 25 pictures and you actually be happy with the way you look. Sorry, that went wrong. Okay. You take 24 pictures. Okay, hold on. I'm going to do the bit properly, right? You take 25 pictures and be as happy as the first picture you took. You lose the moment. You lose the opportunity. The smile goes away. This is torture, by the way. And from what I know, like the women take it up a notch. So they take 25 pictures of themselves until they're happy. And after that, they take it to Instagram. They use the filter. They do the Photoshop. And only then do they upload it. And I asked my wife, it's like, why don't you smile? And she's like, because smiling makes me fat. And I'm like, what the fuck? So, okay, fine. Smiling makes her fat. She's like the Cheshire cat from Alice in Wonderland. Like, when she smiles, she looks fat. At work now, so no time to listen. But beep, 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 boop, boop, IG. Yeah, unless I do the soy face, people aren't happy. My problem is being genuine. Yes! Problem is being genuine. I'd rather have, like, pictures taken of me when I'm not paying attention than to, like, know that there's a camera and you have to, like, strike a pose or something. I'm not an actor, okay? I'm not Jason Momoa. In order to, like, or Hassan Piker to, like, strike poses as if it's a natural thing. I got anxiety. I don't like the camera. It gives me anxiety. I know that's really bizarre. Like, I'm a YouTuber, right? I shouldn't have anxiety. Smiling makes you fat. I'll tell people that. Yes! This is how you can actually deliver a huge dose of insecurities to women. Like, smiling makes you fat. Go to California and tell all the women there, it's like, hey, smiling makes you fat. Thank you, Amakuno. I appreciate it. UBUV, we love the way you are. No, I like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not insecure about it. It's just that I'm bewildered that people don't understand the situation. It's like, it's not that it's a problem. I mean, you can keep saying it. It's like, oh, V is smiling and fun. Okay, fine. You can keep saying that. But at least I want you to understand why I'm not smiling and fun. It's because, like, after getting 25 pictures taken, your smile fades. Like, there is food on the table. Like, if you notice, there is a restaurant-like environment. There is food on the table. I want to eat. I want to feast. And I have to stand there in order to take a picture. And another, and another, and another, and another. And it's like, oh, God. It's pain. It's suffering. Thank you, Alphonse. It's not that smiling is for chumps. It's like, dude, even if you want to smile, like, by the time you take the 25th picture, it's going to be the fakest smile in the world. Like, there is no way you're going to genuinely be smiling after you take so many pictures. Yes, your happiness matters now. Pretend being happy. Start tickling her. It's like, why would I tickle her? No, because then the picture is wrong. Then she doesn't like the picture if I tickle her. You thought we were on a bus? Dude, you can see the open sky behind us. Imagine to wait for an hour to get food and your wife needs to take pictures. Yes! And like the interesting thing is that they wanna take picture while the food is on the plate, presentable and untouched. Like, if you touch the food and if the food loses its virginity, then they don't like the picture. Get a divorce? What the fuck? How would a divorce fix this? Then I would be even more sad. Because then I don't have anyone to take pictures with. Food pictures are the weirdest things ever. Yes! Like, unless you're trying to promote the restaurant, there is no reason why you should take a food picture. I'm going to make a video based on this rant. I know she will hate it. Like the thing is, like, this is another thing with my wife. Like, she knows that what she is doing is not normal. So when you're, like, exposing her to the public, she gets angry. She gets upset. But it's like, you need to get upset. You need to get upset because deep down you know. Like, deep down you know the situation. You know that it's wrong. Just learn to dominate the picture taking. It's not like it's not about dominating the picture taking. Like, she wants a picture, right? So I understand. It's like, she's reasonable. But unless she looks perfect in that picture, unless it's 100%, she's not happy. She wants another and another and another. And it's like, God, there have been times when I lost my patience. And I went like, enough. I need time to recharge. Let me recover. Talk later. So that there were times that I have dominated the environment, but like usually 25 is not that unreasonable compared to what she's capable of. Like, you don't want to know her real power. I swear to God, I think like 2 hours is the record. Like, I think 2 hours is the Guinness Book record in which she stood and just took picture after picture after picture. And I'm like, come on. Oh my God, when she took pictures of the cats. When she took pictures of the cats to put them up for sale. Like with the kittens that we sold. Holy shit, like I kept hearing the cat meowing. Like the cat was meowing in agony. Because like she was making it stand on the sofa. And the cat wanted to leave. I think the cat was shitting itself. Not out of fear. Like I legitimately think like the cat needed to go on the litter. Like the cat required to like it was actually de facto shitting itself. But out of courtesy, it didn't want to do it on the sofa. Yeah, it was like, save meow. so like she kept the cat there for more than an hour. I was like, come on, that is cruel and unusual to do to a kitten. You know, they perceive time differently. Like for you, it might have been an hour. For the kitten, it was years. They have different time perception. Cat torture. She knows it's pathological. Yes! But she wants to do it without other people knowing that she does it. It's part of the thing. Anyway, someone's calling, so I'll end the stream here. Thank you for listening, chat. Thank you for the donations. And I'll see you guys later on my main channel. Take care.